foremost part of Queens, the most amazing borough in my opinion. But also to be in a room with so many trailblazers. You know, we have, of course, our Congress members, Gregory Meeks and Grace Meng, who've been both inspiring for me personally. And for those that don't know, Grace Meng back in the day in 2012 was like, you should run for something. And I was like, you're crazy. But she really has and I know that for Gregory Meeks also in his areas of Queens and Southeast Queens have built really such an amazing pipeline of future leaders. And to me, that is so amazing because it's not just about them. They understand the future and the vision and what it means to be an ally and a leader. And I just want to thank you both for that because it means so much to see how amazing it is to see the changing faces of Queens and the elected and the representatives, but of course, paying homage and honoring those that have come before us, especially to my council member, Barry Grudenchik, and we have former council member Karen Kozlowitz, who I know also has built such a pipeline with so many people in Queens, and you know, especially when I went to Israel with Jay Cersei last year, you know, it's crazy because we went to that kibbutz that was attacked, where a lot of those Jewish kibbutz members had died, and it was very surreal because I remember they presented to us the parts of the bombs and the pieces of metal and scrap that were in the buildings and the bullet holes and the things that had fallen from the sky, and all of us were just amazed because we were like, but why continue to stay here? But it's really their home, their homeland, their heart, and their heart for Gaza and their heart for Israel. Like, it was so amazing to see that despite everything that they had been through. And I think one of the most important lessons I've learned from my Jewish neighbors growing up is that this idea of history and what it means to never forget. And I had the fortune to have gone to the Seder at Rabbi Wise's house last year. He invited me, my husband, and my two boys. And my husband and I were talking about it afterwards, and we were so amazed. We're like, you know, the thing I love is the teaching of the history. Like, I don't know if I can go back in my, you know, with the wars that were happening in Korea and the occupation and all the years of just being bullied by every country around there, I don't know that I know my own family's history back even a generation or two. And it made our family realize, like, wow, this is something that we need to instill in our children, is to never forget the history of where we came from, what our family sacrificed to be here, and what it means to stand together as allies. And I think for me, this is something that drives me to want to be an ally. And our two Congress members who are up here, they know what hate looks like, they know what fear looks like, they know what bullying looks like, and they stand up for all communities, which is amazing because every time they see hate, they see it, they call it out for what it is, and they stand up for our communities that are experiencing it. And I just really want to thank you both for all that you've done for our communities. And we really are truly blessed to have amazing role models like you in Queens, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Point of personal privilege, I have a friend who I've been trying to get to come to the nursing home for a long time, Mike Sullivan Sully from Metropolitan Park, and from the New York Mets. I get tickets from him. Anyway, I would like to introduce Rabbi Herschel Welcher, the president, chairman of the board of the Vaad Harabbonim of Queens.
It's nice to be here today. It's a feeling of being among friends. As has been very clearly articulated, the Congress members that we have are ones that identify strongly with our community. And it's a good feeling to be among friends in a day that we honor them. And we thank them for everything that they've done and continue to do for our community. I come, I have to tell you in all honesty, from a very troubled community. We're a very troubled community. And I'm a person that's been countless times in the last 55 years in Israel, up and back. I identify strongly, I have my family, a very large family in Israel. including cousins that are serving in Tzal and the Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza. And I come also from a family of Holocaust survivors. My father-in-law was a sole survivor from his family from Poland, from a very large family. My mother-in-law came from Vienna and she survived with one sister. The rest of her family was eradicated. We understand, unfortunately, too well hate. I had thought, in all honesty, that that was history, that we would not experience that again. The events which took place on October 7th shook me to the core, as it did my community. The realization of our vulnerability and events that we thought were part of history that our grandparents told us, part of our life. And perhaps even worse than that was the support, the wide support for Hamas on October 8th, DSA right here in New York City. We had demonstrations and repeated demonstrations. Members of the Democratic Party, the universities that we have, could anything have been more repugnant than the testimony of Claudine Gay? That to call for genocide of the Jewish people, well, it depends in the context if this violates Harvard's principles. Echoed by the president of MIT and UP. We're a troubled community. And it's not only for events in Israel. The security of Jewish people there is very, very threatened. A synagogue president was murdered in Michigan. A demonstrator at a pro-Israeli rally in Los Angeles was murdered. At our own synagogue in Kew Garden Hills, an intruder attempted to gain entry to our synagogue and two other synagogues. I live in this city for a long time. My grandfather came here 110 years ago from Poland to the city. I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in the city of New York. The thought that there was security outside a synagogue was unheard of. I come to Jewish schools. I'm a rabbi. I teach in Jewish schools as well. And they're an armed camp. Fences around them. With guards sitting outside. And I speak to one of the security men. And he tells me, well, one day a guy came by, he started taking pictures, and I took him down. We're a troubled community. The concern security is at the highest level of our concerns. When there are things in city council which are handcuffing the police, and I don't accept the fact that these are requirements that have to be until now. If they are required until now, why are we making a new law? So I don't accept that as being true. And anything which will discourage the police from doing what they're doing is unacceptable to us. And as I say, I'm among friends. And Melinda Katz knows very well, as do all the politicians, that our community in Kew Garden Hills put her into office at a very, very close election. And we've only begun to flex our muscles. Our community is becoming more and more involved, and with each passing election, a greater percentage of our people are participating in the elections. And what I have to say, it's painful to say it to friends, but I have to say it. We hope that our dear friends, that we will be able to continue to support them. But the bar has been raised in our community. We're a troubled community. And consequently, what was tolerable in the past years is no longer tolerable to us. No, it's not tolerable not to censure Rashida Tlaib. It is not tolerable to hug Ilhan Omar. It is not tolerable not to denounce the DSA for their demonstrations when they call from the river to the sea, which means the eradication of the state of Israel and the murder of 7 million Jews. This is not acceptable. And as I said, we're among friends, and I believe among friends we could speak candidly, and we look forward, in fact, that our friends will raise the bar of their support, be more vociferous in their support of the Jewish community. and not pander and appease the left-wing progressives, the squad that hates us, that will no longer be a part of what takes place. As I say, our concerns, we want to continue to support you. We look forward to doing so, but realize that the bar of what we need today has risen. It is no longer what it was a few months ago. I'm happy to be here today. I thank all of you. I commend Congressmember Meng and Congressmember Meeks for their support. I look forward to their continued support and for our ability to continue to support them in the future. I thank you very much.
In a few moments, we'll hear from both of our honorees. I just wanted to acknowledge also Rabbi Chaim Schwartz from Chavetz Chaim and Michael Cohn from Simon Wieselhall, and also Shopsy, Saperstein Shopsy. State Senator Carmody, please come in. It's so all get to hear. You have letters that were written by dozens of young women from the Vaad Harabbonim of Queens. We have one here for Congressman Meeks for thank you. We have one here for the young ladies. I just would like to ask all the rabbis to come up. We're going to give the awards now, and then we'll have the members of Congress speak, and then also State Senator Comrie will want to have remarks afterwards.
Will the rabbis please come up?
For coming too. We appreciate you being here. The two Congress people. We want to tell you we have your back, whether it's from a financial point and get out the vote point. You are there for us. We will and are there for you. I'd like to invite Congresswoman Meng to address the group.
Thank you so much. Let's give Shimmy a round of applause for all that you do. Shimmy's letting me cut the line ahead of Chairman Meeks because Chairman Meeks is a much better speaker than I am, and I don't like to go after him. Nobody, Senator. Thank you, Shimmy, and thank you for hosting us, and thank you to all the amazing people who are here today. I really want to start by thanking the leadership of the Vaad, Rabbi Welcher, Rabbi Marcus, Rabbi Hecht, for your generosity, for your work, for our partnership, and most important, your friendship. I thank you so much for my colleagues who came out today on a rainy Sunday morning to be with us. It is such an honor to be with all of you, and especially to our Deputy and Acting Consul General of Israel. Thank you for always being with us here in Queens. You don't have to say what your favorite borough is, but we know. I did not expect to feel this way, but coming here and being in this room with all of you is really so timely and heartfelt and necessary for the soul. I am grateful for this award, but I want to share it with our Jewish community, our friends who feel way too alone right now in this world, in this city, and in this borough. And to say that we are here for you. I want to especially acknowledge Chairman Meeks, who is not just the chairman of Queens County, not just the previous and future chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee. He has lots of honorable titles, but what I appreciate most about him is the work that he does behind the scenes in building bridges, in trying to promote understanding, while never giving up his values and standing up for what's right. It's one thing just to say what's right and to do what's right, but it's a true test of a leader to do that and then try to bring others along with you, knowing that you have the ability to shape the narrative and improve the conversation. And that is Chairman Meeks for me and for so many of us, not just in Queens, but literally throughout the entire country. And I just want you to know, on the floor of the House, where his work is not always seen, that we appreciate you. There's so many people to thank, but I cannot not mention my friend and my mentor, Karen Koslowitz. I am part of Karen's pipeline. I hope that's okay. If you want to claim me. I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for mentors in political office like Karen, who took a stand up for me when not many did, and I appreciate it. You haven't campaigned until you've campaigned with Karen Koslowitz. But, you know, together, we come together today, and as we have for many months now, holding the sorrow of October 7th in our hearts. And like all of you, I was horrified by that day. And we know that Hamas's unprovoked attack on Israel was outrageous and unacceptable. It must be said in this room and in public and on social media that October 7th was the deadliest day in Jewish history since the Holocaust. And it's hard to hear that, and it's painful to hear that, but it must be said, and people must be reminded of that. And it must be said because Israel is still at war. It must be said because hostages are still being held in captivity. I have this chain, one of which was given to me by the JCRC. Thank you, Howard. And the other one was given to me by some of the families of the hostages that we have met with, who have come to Washington, D.C. week after week. And as we meet with them and talk to them and hear the painful stories of what their families and loved ones are going through and continue to go through, we hold this because we are not done fighting until we can bring them home. And we will do everything we can to bring them home. That is the least that we can do. We stand today with Israel, and we stand with the Jewish community, with our friends, with our Jewish brothers and sisters. We are members of both parties in Congress, neighbors in a diverse New York community, united around our shared goals of bringing our hostages home, defeating Hamas. Hamas is not good for the Palestinians. Hamas is not good for Israel. Hamas is not good in this world. And we need to work actively to make sure that an October 7th can never, ever happen again. And before the attacks, we knew, even here in this diverse city, we knew that anti-Semitism was on the rise. And now in its aftermath of these attacks, we have seen it surge, not in subtle ways anymore, not behind closed doors, publicly, everywhere. And I have heard from so many of you and so many people in the city how alone our Jewish community feels right now. Even after the ADL recorded a 260% increase in anti-Semitic incidents, many are wondering why there isn't more understanding. Why aren't more people outraged? Why are we having these debates? Many feel that there is a double standard. In Congress, we have worked hard to make sure that when it comes to hate, there is only one standard: condemnation. In the aftermath of October 7th, I joined 425 of my colleagues, both Democrats and Republicans, thank you, Chairman Meeks, in a resolution to condemn Hamas's attacks. And we have done so in a bipartisan way on the steps of Capitol Hill as well, together. When university presidents could not clearly state that calls for genocide against Jewish students violated their code of conduct, I co-sponsored a resolution with my colleague from across the aisle, Congressmember Stefanik, to condemn that testimony. When South Africa claimed that Israel is committing genocide against Hamas, an enemy that promised genocide against the Jewish people and Israel into its founding charter, I joined a bipartisan letter condemning it. And I want to leave this message with you that the Jewish community does not stand alone. And I know that you feel alone. The US Congress stands with you. The American people stand with you. And I know you don't always feel it, but know that we stand with you in your darkest of hours, and we stand together, united against hate and in support of our friend and ally, Israel. We have worked on the House Appropriations Committee with Senator Schumer, Chairman Meeks, Leader Jeffries to secure a dramatic increase in funding to the NSGP program, the Nonprofit Security Grant Program, to $305 million. Many of you know that this money goes directly to our schools to provide funding for security upgrades like cameras and locks and lighting, and have literally gone towards saving lives of our families right here. And so I know that the rise in anti-Semitism, even here locally, and I wanted to thank Michael from the Wiesenthal Center. I know we spoke about it on the way in, about the situation at Hillcrest High School, where a local teacher was forced to barricade herself in a classroom just because she went to a rally in support of the hostages and Israel. And thank you for your work in partnering with them and to promote understanding and building bridges. That is the real work that needs to be done. We have a bipartisan task force for combating anti-Semitism. We are working to increase funding for the Office of Civil Rights and the Department of Investigation, which keeps track and investigates, and they need to do so more vigorously, these types of incidents. So we know that stopping anti-Semitism, hatred, and bigotry starts with education. We have legislation called the HEAL Act in Congress. This would direct the Holocaust Museum to study and report on the state of Holocaust education across the country. We need this bill to make sure that everyone understands how and what our kids are learning or not learning about the Holocaust, because the recent statistics are pretty frightening. And we all know that if history is not learned, it's doomed to be repeated. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, but know that we stand with you. And some of the speakers have mentioned some of these protests that have been outside of our offices, people that have followed our staff and friends and family to their cars, to their homes, to their offices. I know that I and Chairman Meeks have met with them. It's their right to be heard, but it's also our right to stand up for what is right. It is also our right and obligation to stand up against anti-Semitism and against all forms of hate. Many of you have conveyed in your darkest hours of pain and sorrow, you have conveyed messages of encouragement to us and to our staff. And that has given us strength to continue to fight for our communities here. So thank you for this award. I'm sorry it talked so long. You know, I've been stuck in Washington for a long time. When I come here, especially to Shimmy's place, this is home for me. And it just really warms my heart to be able to receive this award with all of you and give me another opportunity to say thank you for all that you do.
Wow. I just want to reiterate that the amount of love that we are showing here and seeing here is something worthy of you, and all of the electeds. The fact that they are being attacked because they're defending us is something we all have to take seriously. I'm a lieutenant in Congressman, soon to be Senator, Congressman Meeks's organization. I'm gonna get in big trouble. I'm gonna get a call from Chuck later, who's gonna beat me up. But I do wanna say that as head of the Foreign Affairs Committee, when the Democrats control Congress, which will be replicated very shortly, Hakeem Jeffries has promised me that, by the way. And now the ranking member, he visited Israel many times, but also many other hotspots. And when I used to call him, I'd say, "Where are you today?" And it would always be someplace foreign and someplace that needed his intervention. But I'm thrilled to be one of his friends. I'm thrilled to be someone that I can look up to and say, wow, this man is there for all of us. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Congressman Gregory Meeks.
Thank you, Shimmy. Thank you for all you do in our county, in our state, in our country, for people. Thank you for being a great human being. And that is a great testament. I thank you. Let me first just say thank you for giving me the pleasure of being here and sharing this stage with my friend, my partner, my buddy, Grace Meng. She is such a leader, the kind of leader often that's a quiet leader. I watched her when she first got elected to Congress, coming out of what she was doing in the state assembly. I watched her then take the leadership role in the National Democratic Committee. And in that role, she was bringing people together. She was talking and directing, and she knew exactly where she wanted to go and how to do it. She always, which I think is tremendously important in this day and age, and for anyone who happens to be elected to anything, a straight shooter, telling the truth. And when I watch her and how people respond to her, I say to myself that I am thankful to God for putting Grace Meng into my life, making her my friend and a partner of mine in Washington, D.C. Thank you, Grace. We had several colleagues that were here at Ghana. They're all strong friends, all people that I respect and admire, but I just got to give a shout out to about the two that are here. First, in our district attorney. When I first got elected to the assembly a long time ago, and then she later came, she made history. She was about 5 years old when she got elected to the state assembly. But Melinda has always, and you can tell that the people
of this county respects her and loves her because she has served us in various capacities. And in each capacity, it is with the utmost of honor, dignity, ability. She does not just talk the talk, she walks the walk. And that's why I know today I do feel safer in Queens County with her as the district attorney, because we know she stands for justice. Leroy County has been my brother in arms for as long as I've been in Queens County. He's been working here, he's been doing things, and he's now the chairman of the Corporations Committee in Albany on the state Senate side. He's a leader. He brings all of the state senators, he works, he talks, he fights. He's relentless in his pursuit of making sure that our legislative body passes and moves on legislation that is good for us all. And for that, we owe Leroy a great debt of gratitude. I'm going to be brief. I know several people have 2 o'clock appointments. And, I was going to say that, I've gotten to the point where some of my audiences have gotten young. So when I say, and I mention Elizabeth Taylor, they don't even know who she is. So I've got to explain that Elizabeth Taylor was a great movie star and one of the individuals that changed the world in the fact that she was, standing and everybody admired her. She was one of the most beautiful women in the world, proclaimed. And she had 7 husbands. And so when I start, what I learned is that I am going to take the advice of what Elizabeth Taylor said to her 7th husband. I'm not going to keep you long. Let me just say this briefly, because Grace really talked about the work that we're doing in Washington, D.C. The overwhelming numbers, 425, first resolution that came to the floor after we had not been on the floor for a long period of time. It was focused in a bipartisan way, and Michael McCall, who's now the chair of the committee, we was committed together to make sure that Congress spoke with the loudest and most unified vote. I don't think that there was ever a resolution of its kind done previously in the House of Representatives. Significant and important. But as I came here today, I just thinking, Grace, that beautiful awards that we were receiving today, that I wish that we did not have to accept. Because you really don't do what you think is right to accept an award. It's not about an award. It's about doing the right thing and doing your job. And for me, when I think about this in a historical context, the significance and the importance of the state of Israel. When I think about the historic nature and why, and one of the reasons why I'm here, and my relationship with the Jewish community, it reminds me of when I was a kid. And I watched the television, and I saw Dr. King and various rabbis walking arm in arm, eradicating, fighting, changing, not being silent, to try to change and make America and the world move into a different direction. Then when I went to school and learned that even here in the United States was slow and negligent to come out against the Holocaust. When it took place, we said to the ship St. Louis, we sent Jews back to be slaughtered. what a blemish on history and us. And I've always thought that if ever I was in a position, I would, doing as what took place back at that time, that I would do the right thing and say, no, we've got to prevent that from taking place. And I think that what took place in 1947 and 48, when the state of Israel was created, it was created because of all of the wrongs and all of the way people had treated the Jewish people. And finally, the world was acknowledging the need to have a Jewish state. That was so significant and important because of all what had taken place in the past in regards to history. A Jewish state. The right thing to do. The thought was there would be peace. That it would solve and have some peace in the Middle East. But almost from the very beginning, folks wanted to take and destroy the Jewish state. So war took place because folks did not want or did not feel the Jewish people had a right to a state. The United States made the determination then that we're going to stand by that Jewish state no matter what it took, because we understood the past wrongs that we had, that we're going to make sure that this Jewish state survived, that this Jewish state would be a free Jewish state. And I say to you that the United States of America and the United States Congress today, and the reason why you see us standing so strong is because we do believe today that today and tomorrow, the Jewish state of Israel must and will stand and stay, and we will be with them and fight with them and stand with them and make sure that they are secure. So, what I learned when I first visited Israel was that the people of Israel, all they want is peace. The opportunity to live in peace, side by side with their neighbors. It has been demonstrated that that's what they want. How do I know? Well, because the wars that were taking place in the past were led by Egypt. But when Egypt finally decided that they would say Israel had the right to exist, Israel was ready to have peace. The same thing took place in the 90s with Jordan. All Israel wants is to say, you have the right to exist. We want to make sure that we're working together. And I found when I made my first visit to the other side, you can't have peace if one side says we want peace and the other side says you don't have the right to exist. There's no way to have peace. Peace takes two. Now, I was hopeful before October the 7th that a change was starting to take place. When I was the chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, I was a major proponent of the Abraham Accords. And I talked to the people of Israel were so hopeful of the Abraham Accords. Why? Because for the first time, you had Arab nations saying what they had never said before. Israel has the right to exist, and we want to have peace with our neighbors. And Israel was working, and we were moving in that direction. Some called for a ceasefire. I tell them today, there was a ceasefire on October the 6th. It wasn't Israel who violated that ceasefire. And why was it violated? Because this group, known as Hamas, said Israel did not have the right to exist. And we want to destroy the state of Israel and all of its people. Now the truth is, in my mind, that does fit the definition of a genocide. When you want to wipe out all of the people. Not when you're defending yourselves. So once Hamas, who continues to say that we will do this again and again and again, and once Hamas, who continues to embed itself within the other people of Palestine, shooting rockets, killing their own people, a group like that. And when we hear folks talking, when I don't hear the first word come out of people's mouths when we talk about the current situation in the Middle East, if the first word out of their mouth is not Hamas and the evil that they've done, then you know they're not talking about the right thing. And that's what's happening now. Nobody wants to talk about Hamas. Nobody wants to talk about who is the focus and why we got to go after them. Well, I will tell you this as I conclude. I can tell you that the members of the United States Congress, we know Hamas. And we know some of the other individuals in that region who do not want Israel to exist. We know Hezbollah is there and would love to take advantage of this situation. We know Iran is there and would love to take advantage of this situation. But I'll tell you a thing I know also. The United States Congress and the people of the United States will say no. We're going to stand with Israel. We're going to give Israel what it needs to defend itself. We're going to make sure that the state of Israel continues to shine and be that partner and guiding light for us to work together. And I do believe, as Dr. King said, because I'm a firm believer in him, his words, his life, and his times. So I can't be one that is not without hope. So I believe, as he said, I believe that we will see the day. I believe when we can help and make his dream come true. When Jew and Gentile, Protestant and Catholic can live as one and share and understand and be true to ourselves as human beings. We've got a ways to go, but we can do it if we just lock arms, stand, and continue to fight together, because it will make tomorrow better than today or yesterday. Thank you all so very much. And God bless each and every one of you.
You can't have two better friends than that. Also want to acknowledge Menashe Shapiro, deputy to our wonderful Adams, the mayor of the city of New York. Menashe, thanks for coming. This concludes our thing, unless Leroy, would you like to say a few words? State Senator Comrie. And Rabbi Shmuel Marcus, one of the top rabbis of the young Israel of the Queens Valley, plus of the Vaad Harabbonim, and Rabbi Nissanov, thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry that I was tardy, but I was at a church service for a 100-year-old person that drives himself every day. That he does. He's healthier than me. Which is not a lot to say, but I'll be brief, and because I know that you've all been here all day, thank you for staying and supporting to the Queens Vlad, to Jimmy, to my colleagues in government, to the Council General. I want to claim Karen Kozlowitz as a mentor and a friend also. And also, I want to just acknowledge my brothers from another mother, Howard Pollock and Barry Grudenchik, who left already. But I just wanted to acknowledge them also. I'm just here today to continue to congratulate my colleagues, and I got to tell you, I was very proud. One of the proudest moments of many moments that I've had with Congressman Meeks was the other day. There were a group of people that we thought had common sense that were grilling him about trying to have a peaceful solution without having justice. And Greg gave them 20 minutes of the more than reasons why we have to support Israel. We have to stay strong and steadfast to Israel's fight to make sure that we get rid of Hamas. And he did this in not a public room, it was a private room. It was in a space where he didn't have anybody looking over his shoulder or worrying about him, while to try to get them to change their mind from the foolish moves that they're hearing from people that are trying to create hostility all over the world and division. Where we know that we have to stand, and those of you that know the history, as Greg was sharing, that we have to support Israel, especially during these perilous times, and we have to be clear-minded and focused about it. So I just want you to know that I'm always proud of my two Congress people, but I was very proud of Greg for standing up in a room where he faced unnecessary hostility. So he's not just saying it here, he's not just saying it in front of a friendly audience, he's saying it everywhere he goes. And I was proud to support him with that, and you can count on my support to stand with the people of Israel no matter where and what room I'm in. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Just want to remind people, in 2 weeks, the Queens Jewish Community Council breakfast at the Young Israel of Jamaica Estates, and I will see many of you at the JCRC breakfast at the UJA building next Sunday morning. Thank you very much for coming. for coming too. We appreciate you being here.
while to try to get them to change their mind from the foolish moves that they're hearing from people that are trying to create hostility all over the world and division. Where we know that we have to stand, and those of you that know the history, as Greg was sharing, that we have to support Israel, especially during these perilous times, and we have to be clear-minded and focused about it. So I just want you to know that I'm always proud of my two Congress people, but I was very proud of Greg for standing up in a room where he faced unnecessary hostility. So he's not just saying it here, he's not just saying it in front of a friendly audience, he's saying it everywhere he goes. And I was proud to support him with that, and you can count on my support to stand with the people of Israel no matter where and what room I'm in. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Just want to remind people, in 2 weeks, the Queens Jewish Community Council breakfast at the Young Israel of Jamaica Estates, and I will see many of you at the JCRC breakfast at the UJA building next Sunday morning. Thank you very much for coming.